Coming to India broadly, uh, when one is criticizing a certain country, for that matter, country, government, policies, whatever, I think people often forget the good when they fixate on the bad. What do you think India is doing well? And if you had to name just three things that can help India along its journey, what would those three be?
Well, I think first is your generation. In fact, I was just chatting to Mr. Patil right here, somewhere here in the audience, who was talking about the fact that he is so inspired by there he is. And it's a thought that had occurred to me. You put it with such passion and eloquence, I wanted to quote you. I think that the younger generation has genuinely been freed of a lot of the shackles that kept my generation and the older one, the first generation after independence, down. I think people were tied down, first of all, by the whole colonial experience, the baggage, the problems we saddled with, the sense of the sort of inferiority complex that many were saddled with at a certain time. We were the children of that generation, and we hadn't fully outgrown all of that. Whereas today's young people, and by young I mean anyone really under 40 today, is far more confident, far more assertive, far more aspirational, and far less willing to accept the constraints that earlier generations seemed to even unconsciously assume they were subject to. And that, to my mind, is truly inspiring. You guys are going to carry this country forward, and you're going to carry it forward, to my mind, in a way which perhaps many of us could not have conceived of. So that's one good thing that's going on. Another thing that worked out through a combination of persistence, hard work, and sheer luck has been the digital revolution. It started off with the 90s when, fortunately, the regulators didn't know what was going on and sort of allowed the whole IT business to grow dramatically, and the software production and the internet regulation, the cables being laid across under the ocean and so on. And Y2K came along, and suddenly India came of age in the global thing as a source of internet wisdom and IT and business process offshoring and all that. So you know the stories. And I think that has been quite remarkable. Today, the Indian tech stack is spoken of with a lot of reverence. The payments interface, UPI, is the envy of many countries, and many people say it may well supplant the American SWIFT one day or soon enough, and so on. The way in which Indians, using Indian brains, have been able to apply digitization to various aspects of our lives, including helping the poorest of the poor. I think that has been transformative, and that's the second big thing that I would cite. The third thing that India is doing right is not forgetting that I heard somebody mention superpower a little earlier. I want to say, wait a minute, we're still super poor. We still have a couple of 100 million people who are living barely this side of the funeral pyre. And we just, whether we grow at 6% as we seem to be doing now, or 9% as we did at the peak of the Manmohan Singh era, we can't afford to forget the 25% living below the poverty line or close to it, who need our help and attention. So whatever we do, we have to construct a polity and a society which ensures that the revenues that come from all this are also shared with those who are left out, who are excluded, who are marginalized. And I say this fully aware that many of the people in this room are very prosperous, successful business people. But it seems to me it's in your interest as well, which is why I applaud the charitable work that these young people are doing here, Gen Next. The fact is that it's only by helping these people that you make them your consumers and customers of tomorrow. You give them a leg up and make them functioning members of the consumer society, which they're not, unless you help them. So that's why it seems to me that it's in everyone's interest. So those would be the three things that broadly we're doing right. But then you've got to balance them with some of the things we're doing wrong. I mean, with the digital revolution, you've got the shambolic state of our cybersecurity. Horrifying to read yesterday that 850 million names, Aadhaar cards, and passport details, photographs, everything have been leaked and are available for sale on the dark web. Somebody hacked the Medical Council of India, which had all this data from the vaccinations down in India over COVID. And it's all over the dark web. Anybody can spend the money and get all your information and use that to perhaps try and hack into your bank accounts and God knows what else they can do. So it's horrifying that sort of stuff should happen. There's no point being a digital genius or giant and not be able to protect your own back door. So that's something that worries me. When we look at the poverty problem, we also know that a lot of the stuff is very temporary. You know, you give away a freebie, but you don't actually enable the person, you don't empower the person, you just prevent them from starving. Right? I mean, that old cliche about give a man a fish and you give him a meal, teach him how to fish, and he'll never starve again. That's where are we teaching the poor to never starve again? That isn't happening in a lot of the stuff. So that's the second thing which isn't working all well. And then with the younger generation, yes, you guys, there are many, many examples of young people doing all that well, but there are also too many people getting left behind because we're not doing enough skill development and education. And that frightens me because, you know, there's nothing more dangerous for a society, any society, than legions of uneducated or undereducated, unemployed and possibly unemployable young men. Because they could be a real danger to everything we've talked about that's going right. So each of the three things I've said, positive, there is an underside as well. There's a cloud and a silver lining, and we've got to see which one prevails, and that, fortunately, may be a job for your generation rather than mine.